Welcome to another segment of Provocative Conversations, destined to provoke further thought and spark greater questions regarding God, church, and the religious establishments of both the past and the present. I am the proud heretic, Mr. Provocateur himself. Hello. This is Mr. Provocateur himself. I am that proud heretic, and we're on part 4, possibly, most likely, our last segment in regards to dedicating a whole message, a whole conversation, or the final part to initiating conversation in regards to heresy, what the church calls heresy, and what church folk will call heretics. This is Heresy 101. What is heresy and who is a heretic? Why do I call myself a proud heretic? I think it's good company to be in, as I've said before. It's great company because Jesus was amongst heretics, or those who the religious establishments, or those within the religious establishments of his day, they considered him to be a heretic. They considered him to be blasphemous. They considered him to be a false prophet. They considered him to be a person who was spreading heresy. That was basically the charge against him, all which was a lie. But again, you'll consider anyone a heretic. Number one, if you don't have proper knowledge. Number two, if you are basically a heretic yourself and you're trying to project upon others what you know you are yourself, so that the light will move away from you and be placed on someone else. One thing about me, again, I gladly embrace being a heretic. I don't shun away from being a heretic. I've seen the rest of the stuff. I've seen, I won't say the rest of the stuff, but I've seen a lot of the other stuff. And I think I'm in better company being considered a heretic than I would be being considered a Christian. As far as Christendom and Pentecostalism, non-denominationalism, all the isms, schisms, and traditionalisms, you should know me by now that, and those who don't, I have a saying, and here's my saying: to hell with religion, Christianity, church, and the traditions of the church that void out the truth and nullify the actual power of God from ever being effective within those institutions and through those institutions. So that's how I feel about it all. So I gladly embrace being this heretic, this one who goes against the established norms of our society, of our church worlds, our church gatherings, our religious gatherings, the religious teachings, the fundamentals of Catholicism and all of that. I rebuke all of that. And, if you want to put the fire on me, well, let me help you put it on me. I mean, I don't have a problem with putting the fire on me, but if you want to put fire on me, again, like I said, sometimes you got to beat people to the punch. So if you want to send me to hell, well, what I'll say is, start cooking the coals. Does that make you feel better? Oh, well, I mean, whatever gets you moving, do what you got to do. But I don't fear any of that. You'll never hear me scream out like, no! No, never. To hell with all that. Have no problem with it. I'm not scared of God. If God wants to bring it on, I'll help him bring it on too. At least the God of your belief. After all the thunder and all the lightning, I'm still here. I'm still here, not going anywhere. Just here to help you get it right. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, this is what I do. This is how I live. This is where I am. I live amidst my convictions. I live amidst my convictions. I live amidst my convictions. I do not take down from my convictions. I embrace this stage of heresy, this period, this assignment that I have of being considered by some as a heretic. I am Mr. Provocateur. I do provoke further conversations into greater truths. I do that by exposing a lot of the other mess. There's a verse that says, do not be carried away. Again, that I spoke this before, but do not be carried away by varied, strange teachings. Let me tell you something. Just because you've never heard a teaching, just because you've never heard a saying, just because you've never heard a truth, and just because you will come across some truths and some revelations that I may speak that you've never heard, that your preacher has never said, that your preacher doesn't even agree with, that doesn't make me wrong because it's strange to you, because it doesn't jive with what you know or what you have established as being the truth and the only truth. It just means what it is. It's strange to you, strange to what you've heard thus far, but it doesn't mean it's bad. No, don't write stuff off just because you're not familiar with it, or just because your pastor doesn't agree with it, your bishop doesn't agree with it, your apostle didn't say it first, your evangelist didn't come into your town and give you that, the last prophet you spoke to didn't mention that. It doesn't matter what they say. Well, it matters what they say, but don't miss God by waiting on them to say what God never meant for them to say. Okay. I have a little throat issue going on here, so you'll have to pardon me if you hear me cough a little or get a little dry in my throat. But I try not to allow anything to stop me from recording if I can do it decently. There is a verse. It says, I am amazed that you are so quickly deserting him who called you by the grace of God for a different gospel, which really is not another. Only there are some who are disturbing you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. Well, this is a verse that people have stated to me. Now, they may not have quoted the verse, but people who have known me throughout the years, especially in ministry, they knew that I would spend 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a day, sometimes 20 hours a day, daily, back to back, week to week, month to month, year to year, just studying. This all started somewhere in the year of 1991. deeper into 92 and then deeper into 93, 94, 95. I was really deep in those years, really into it, just engulfed into everything, not everything, but engulfed into everything that God was giving me and revealing to me and showing me. And I would just spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And anyone who knows me, they can vouch for what I'm saying. People couldn't understand it. I heard preachers tell me it was wrong, and then I've had some tell me that they're jealous for the time that I'm able to spend with God and whatever. And I tell you, I was so very appreciative of that time, and I would always say, God, thank you. I appreciate this time. Please don't ever take this time away from me, because I just want truth. I want truth in my inner parts. I just want it all. Give it to me. Give me that revelation. Reveal it to me, God. I'll put it out. I'll do something with it. Give it to me. And God gave it to me, not because I asked, but because he had already purposed and planned for me to have that thing anyway. So it wasn't necessarily that because I asked or because I was so good. It wasn't about that. But people began to say, as I was growing through all of those years, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, round about that, the end of that 3 period and that 4 period and that 2005 period, my eyes, they became so enlightened in regards to everything. Within that time period, things just clicked for me. It just clicked. And I saw it for what it was, and I couldn't get away from it, and I wasn't going to be afraid of it, because the events that occurred that brought me to that point were so riveting. I couldn't ignore. I couldn't allow anything to stand in between me completing that process, even if it meant for me to sell out everything that I had studied and that I had learned and that I was teaching and preaching and whatever. And I didn't have to get rid of everything. I just had to tweak some things as to where God was taking me at that point. I was successful at tweaking those areas, or those areas being tweaked in me. And I didn't have a problem with getting off of a lot of the stuff because I realized that this stuff was not correct. That's where a lot of preachers go wrong. They're not willing to give up what they think they know for something greater. I was there. I always wanted to be that. And I was willing. And I was bold enough. I wasn't afraid. You wasn't going to hear me scream like a no. I was all for it. But anyway, this verse says, I am amazed that you are so quickly deserting him who called you. And that's how people were saying to me, people who knew me. And when they saw me in 2004 and 5 and 6 changing and whatever, man, you're leaving God. You taught me. You gave me revelation. You gave me this. You brought me to the Lord and all this stuff. They really felt that I left God because of where God was taking me, what God was doing in and through me. And I didn't leave God. I was going deeper into God. I was getting more and more engulfed, more and more lost in him. And they couldn't see any residue on me that represented the person that I once was, in the sense of the how would I say? I wasn't just given, I was never just given scripture. I was always presenting more than just scripture, in the sense that there was power with what I was saying. I wasn't just speaking verses. But people loved me in the light of believing in the hell and believing in the devil and believing in this hellfire and this wrath and all of this pit fire stuff. People loved me in that arena, or being in that arena as far as within my teaching. But when I began to pull away from that, they began to say to me, how are you deserting us? How are you deserting God? You need to go back to your first love. You need to go back to your foundation. And now you're changing, like this verse says, for a different gospel, which is really not another. I'm not coming with a different gospel. In fact, it's just unfortunate that the gospel that has been presented to most of us has not been the gospel. It has been another gospel, a different gospel, a gospel that's totally different from the good news that God speaks in regard to. The things that I speak are more in line with good news than it has to do with being heretical in the sense, in the true sense of what a heretic is or heresy is. What was before us was more heresy than what is now before us. What was given to us had more inherent heresy within it than the revelation that's coming forth now. Now, there is some stuff out there that makes me say, whoa, buddy, no, buddy. No, you better quit. You better stop it. But for the most part, coming from the angle that I'm coming from, man, people are receiving revelation that is not going to create necessarily a crowd, not in the beginning. It's not going to have a bunch of followers. You're going to have a bunch of naysayers, a bunch of haters. You're going to have people that's going to label you as a heretic, and they're going to excommunicate themselves from the heresy that you're spreading, that you're polluting. They're going to tell you that you're speaking a different gospel. But let it be what it is. It says only there are some who are disturbing you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. I'm not here to disturb anyone. I'm not here to distort anything. I don't want to distort the good news. I don't want to distort the very thing that God is promoting. But I don't want others to be distorted by the traditions, the culture, the customs, the behavior pattern of the Catholics or the Catholicism, the Roman Empire, of what they feel is unadulterated King James version only. All of this stuff. There's more to your God than this. There's more to this godness than that. And if that makes me a heretic, if that makes you a person who's listening to heresy, then embrace that. Embrace that, because then you're in good company. No one is disturbing anyone, at least not me, and distorting the gospel. I have family members who are so lost in the hinder parts of God, in a bad way, in a not so good way, in a blinding way, that they can't even see. If they were to hear me say the things that I say now, I don't cower from any of them. Not any of them. And if anyone ever hears this who's related to me in the least way, I say to you, I don't fear. I'm not afraid of that. You've not offered me much anyway. You're not paying my bills. And even if you were, I would still have to tell the truth. I appreciate the foundation that was laid for me, because God used that there to move me forward to the degree that I needed to move forward. And God had all of that for a reason. And I accept and appreciate the purpose of God within all of that. But let's be real. A lot of that stuff was a bunch of hogwash. But I appreciate those, especially the matriarch. And there's one person that I really appreciate. I appreciate her. I have a grandmother who I just really, really, really appreciate in South Florida, who at the time of this recording is still alive and doing well. I really appreciate you. I really do. I call her mama. She's not my mother, but I call her mama. And I really appreciate her. And I appreciate how she would get me up and make me go to church, and I would always see her in church, and she was always there, and I would walk to church with her. Church was only right around the corner, literally right around the corner. She was two houses away from the corner that the church was on. Basically 2 houses away, or 1 house away, plus a little, just a couple of maybe 50 feet, if even 50 feet. And I remember going to church during the weekend, on the weekends, and walking to church and walking home with her from church, and I, all the way up into my teens and stuff. I remember all of that, and that was good stuff. I've been in the churches where, people would come into the church and they would be supposed sinners, and they would have all this makeup and jewelry on, and then the older ones of the church, or the mature ones of the church at that time, the leaders, they would call all of these people up, and after the sermon, the preacher would have everybody up there, and people would be on their knees, and everyone would have a partner. Every leader would have somebody. They would like, seek him, seek him, seek him. Jesus, Jesus. Just call on him. Jesus, 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 Jesus. And then they would have white foam coming out their mouth, because, you get dry mouth after a while, but, we thought it was like demons coming out of them. And then they would say it so much, and they'd be rubbing your backs and putting their hands on your head. Call him, seek him, louder, Jesus, to the point that you would just literally get drunk within your own psyche, and eventually they would just fall back. I don't know, they were just so tired, or their knees were hurting so bad that they just wanted to fall back and lay down on the floor and do it. Let me just lay down and do it. Now here comes all the throw blankets and the towels and the sheets, and you would think it would, we were in a hotel and they were getting ready to make up a bunch of beds, but they were just throwing sheets on people, trying to cover people up. And now they're down there for the next hour, to the point that, you just go into a trance. They just shake you into a trance, and now you're in this trance. And then when you come out of that trance, you're so tired and so weak and so beat down. And then they top it off by once you stand up and they clean all the spitter off of you and all of that, all the napkins and paper towels and everything, and they stand you up and they say, okay, now that you are saved, and now that you are filled with the Spirit, or whatever they would say, come on, let's do this here. These are our rules. These are our guidelines. These are our tenets. These are our bylaws. These are this, and they'll go through those little laws, and they'll ask you questions. Do you believe in the Father, the Son, and all this other stuff? They go through all this little stuff. I don't remember everything, but then they would be having them pull off their earrings. And I remember the women would be popping off their beaded necklaces, their pearl. I'm sure they weren't real pearls, because we weren't a rich town in South Florida at this time. But anyway, at that time, and they would pop those beads off. And I remember we had wooden floors for a long time, so you would hear the beads drop to the floor and bounce around when they pop them off of themselves. They weren't even reaching back there and like disconnecting it or pulling. They were popping them. That's what I remember. I remember the beads hitting the floors and all, and they would be so serious about what they were doing, so serious. And then they would clean their faces off, to clean all the makeup off of their faces, and tell them what their dress attire is going to have to be, and all this here. And unfortunately, most of those people, many of those people, they died prostitutes. They died from the drug infestment that went on in South Florida in the 80s, the early 80s, the mid 80s, the late 80s. And that's when Bad Boys, cops, became a TV show. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come get you? The Broward County Sheriff Department. I wanted to be a Broward sheriff for so many years. And then I was given my opportunity, and I ended up turning that opportunity down because I wanted to focus on ministry. And I finally got my opportunity, and I didn't do it. I ended up turning it down for ministry and for the sake of my family. Because one thing that I am devoted to what I do. And if I devoted myself to law enforcement, my ministry would have lacked grossly. And so I let it go. But when the drug infestation was so bad, so many people were killed during that time period. So many people went to prison. So many died of AIDS. Of course, it was all, drug related to some degree. Drug and alcohol related. And it's just a sad story, but it just showed me that all of that stuff, it had some type of place, but it wasn't enough to hold anyone, and people didn't remain true. Or they did remain true. They remained true to who they were beyond all of that other stuff. So I don't shoot that stuff down necessarily. However, I do know that I have family members, if they were to hear some of my teachings, and I hope you do, because some of you need to be delivered from that religion, from that religiosity, from that traditionalism, from all of that stuff that has no inherent power to do anything for you. That's why so many within my family, within other families that I'm aware of, throughout this world, not just Florida or anywhere else that I've lived, but throughout this world, are so torn up, are so broken, are so wounded, so hurt, so alone, because this stuff that we've been taught for so long does not work. So it's not people like me who's coming to disturb anything. I'm coming to disturb the twisted norm. I'm coming against any distortion of the gospel, the true good news. And then I don't deny that, and I don't regret that. I don't denounce that. There's a verse that also says, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. And that's what people will say to people such as yourself, people who would hear messages that I speak about. The time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but they'll wanting to have their ears tickled. They will accumulate for themselves teachers in accordance to their own desires, and they'll turn their ears from the truth and will turn aside to myths. Well, honestly, this is exactly what a con artist would want you to believe. That, see, if you stop listening to me, the con artist, not me, I'm saying I'm speaking on behalf of the con artist now. If you turn away from listening to me, the con artist, from me, the evangelist, from me, the prophet, from me, the bishop, from me, the pastor, from me, the deacon, from me, the missionary, from me, the apostle, then you're gonna end up being lost, and you're gonna accumulate for yourselves people such as myself, who's considered a heretic and spreading heresy. You will end up following people who want you to hear exactly what you want to hear, who will be willing to say exactly what you want to be said. I don't know what people want to hear. I know they're tired of hearing what they're hearing, but I'm not here to tickle anyone's ears. I don't want your ears to be tickled. I want you to feel some type of unction in regards to the truth that I speak. Only in regards to the truth that I speak. But I'm not here to tickle anyone's ears. I'm not here to tweet elite with your desires. I'm not here to lead you into some mythological. The sad part about it is the myth is not even with me. The myth is actually riddled within the Bible. There's so many myths there. MYTHS. There are so many myths within that Bible. So many mythological statements, so many mythological accusations, so many mythological undergirdings and overtones and insinuations and assumptions, because it was based upon a lot of that stuff was written by men who were influenced by their society of that day, by the rulers of their day, by the passed down rituals and customs and traditions of that day, or of days of the days of their ancestors. And people think that they're following their ancestors. But Jesus said to the church world of old, or of his day, he said, you say that you are of your fathers Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. He said, but if they were your fathers, you would hear me. But the fact that you don't hear me is proof that they are really not your fathers. In other words, you're not a follower of who you think you're following. Some people will find out that they aren't even following God. Yes, God is working in and through them, but they don't even realize that they're off out of their whack. It's like me having an 8-month-old child, and my child is just learning to walk. He doesn't realize that I'm holding him up, but he's just moving his legs, and he thinks that he's doing whatever he's doing, and he's doing it. And look at me, I'm doing it. And he's walking all big and bold, and he sees what he wants to get to, and he's moving to it. And you can't tell him he ain't doing it. Only because he doesn't realize that he's not. That's how it is with God. We think we're moving towards him. We think that we're moving within or in the right direction. But in actuality, we're moving against him. We're moving away from him. That's a messy thing. So the myths are merely really told within the religious communities and within the religious teachings of our days. But a con artist would love for you to believe that the myth is in line with the things that someone like me would say. Because again, they will project upon you or upon someone else that which has been projected upon them. Because remember, darkness hates light. Darkness hates exposure. So if darkness can put the light and the exposure upon someone else instead of itself, it'll do just that. There's another verse that says, beloved, do not believe every spirit. Do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. Now that is a true statement in itself, on its face, that we shouldn't believe everything. We shouldn't believe what everybody say. But the sad part about it is the religious world, the religious heads of today, they tell you, don't believe anyone outside of their voice. Don't believe anyone outside of your bishop, your assigned pastor, your so-called man or woman of God. That's what they tell you, because they don't want you to hear anyone else. They don't want anyone else to influence you in a proper way, especially if they're tricking. See, if that preacher, if that person, if that religious head is tricking, if that denomination, if that particular entity is tricking. Now, when I say tricking, if you know anything about streets, you know females go out there, males go out there on the streets, and they trick. They pull a trick. In other words, they sell themselves. They're trying to make something happen. or they getting ready to jack somebody, they setting somebody up. Tricking is not a good term. It's really a derogatory term. And if you're tricking, you out there doing wrong. You doing wrong. Well, when I speak of tricking, there are so many preachers, so many people within the church realm, within the religious realm, within the realm of influence that are tricking. They're tricking. They're nothing but trickers, tricksters. They're looking to turn a trick. They're getting ready to make a trick move. And you got to be careful with them. But they'll tell you to be careful in regards to people such as myself. You know, as long as they got a mic, as long as they got a computer, as long as they got the internet, they can always post it. They can always tweet it. They can that's where the false prophets are now. That's where they are, in that podcast land and all of that stuff. Man, hush up. I'm not the tricker. I'm not the trickster. I ain't out here tricking. I'm out here doing right. But it says, test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world, especially since the internet is bigger than ever before and the wickedness in this world has gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. And man, be quiet. By this you will know the Spirit of God, because every spirit that confesses that Jesus is Christ, or that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh and is from God. Every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. Well, and it says, this is the spirit of the Antichrist, of which you have been told is coming, and now is already in the world. Well, that was 2,000, nearly 2,000, if not 2,000 years ago. And we're applying that to this day like never before. And as though they wrote it for this time period, you know, when they were talking in their time period. But understand this here. There were false prophets, and there will always be more than likely false prophets. There were deceivers, and there will always more than likely be deceivers. Whenever you're dealing with power, money, and sex, and politics, you're going to have a struggle amongst the powers that be, with the monies that exist to be made, and with the sexualities that are permeating every facet of society today. And then with the politics, because if you can get into the political world, you can influence the church world, and the church world can influence you, and you scratch each other's back and you get each other what you want. And that's just the way it is. It's a messy thing. I come against all of that. But that stuff is always going to be here. All this spirit of the Antichrist, I don't know. I'll say it like this here. Just because you say you know Christ louder than I do, and you have more of an influence than I do, doesn't mean that you know Christ. Because there's a verse that says, not all who say, Lord, Lord, shall enter. So that kind of shuts that down from face value. And if you don't confess Jesus, that you're not from God, well, I'm going to tell you something. There is no way that just you confessing Jesus with your mouth, that's going to make you something great. And I know if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart and all this, I understand all that. But there is no way that you can just confess with your mouth and then don't do anything with your action. Your confession is based upon your faith. And your faith is based upon your works, which is based upon your demonstration of love. Your faith is based upon your work. Your work is based upon your faith. Your love, your works are based upon your love. That's why the Bible says faith without love, faith without works is dead. It's meaningless. It has nothing to offer. It means absolutely nothing. So, don't sit here and believe that you can, how would I say, that you can, don't sit here and believe that just because a person speaks of Jesus or they confess him, that now they are exempt from being the Antichrist or anything else. Because again, preachers and churches and all these followers of King James and all of this other stuff, most of these people were confessing Jesus, but yet enslaving Jesus. Because the Bible says when they enslave you, they're actually enslaving me. He says when they do it to you, they're doing it to me. So when you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. So it's never about you being, how would I say? It's not just you just because people confess or present more of the Jesus aspect than you, that makes them exempt from being a heretic or from spreading heresy or being considered a false prophet or an antichrist. Because without the works that go alongside that, and most don't have the works, they don't have the love. They're in this thing for themselves. They're not trying to help you with anything. They're not trying to help you with anything. This isn't about you. This is all about them. So they're not trying to do anything to help you. They're not in this for you. They're in it for them. And you have to know that so that you don't discredit or disregard the very ones that you should be listening to rather than the ones that you are listening to. Most of them are, if there is this so-called true spirit of the Antichrist, it's got to be them. When you look at our political world today, in the midst of, as I am recording this, when you look at the political scheme, the political world today, you look at Congress, and you look at the Senate, you look at the Supreme Court, man, most of that is the spirit of the Antichrist right there alone. But yet those people are being heralded and upheld by the so-called Christian coalition from the top to the bottom. That's messed up. So you got to be careful on who you discredit, as because the people who discredit me pretty much are doing themselves or doing others a disservice. Why? Because I might teeter on the edge because of the revolutionary form or the revolutionary approach that my words have. But this is not new, what I'm saying. It may be new to you. It may be the first time in history, the first period in history where people are able to speak as freely as I do and not be burned, spoiled, or beaten or imprisoned or shot. But that still happens today. But it doesn't mean that they were right and someone such as myself is wrong. There's another verse that says, "See to it that you are not misled, for many will come in my name saying, I am he, and the time is near. Do not go after them." Well, first of all, I'm not telling you that I am he. And I'm not telling you. I told you who I am. I am the proud heretic. I told you who I am. I am the provocateur of further conversations, deeper conversations. That's who I am. I'm not trying to cover who I am. Don't be misled. not by anyone in regards to me or not, and not by me. I'm telling you clearly, I'm not the one, but I am here to promote and to provoke and to convince those who are to be convinced through my words that you don't want to be misled by others. I'm not the only truth. I'm not the only truth teller. You don't want to be misled by others, because it is true. Many will come in his name, and they're doing it. The time is now. They're doing it. Don't go after them. I'm not saying that. I am saying that God sent me, though, but I'm not coming as Christ. I'm not coming as the only truth. I'm saying to you, talk about this. Talk to God about it. Have conversations with him in regards to this. Have conversations with your family. Have conversations with church members. Have conversations with your pastor, your apostle, your bishop, if you can even get to them, because it would have been easier for people to get to Jesus than it is to get to those people, especially now that they carry guns and rifles and everything else. It's just the way it is. It's just what it has come to. It is what it is, man. It would be easier and better and safer for you to get to God than it would be to get to your bishop, your pastor, your apostle. That's just the way it is. Let's just be real about this thing. That's just what it is. That's what it is, and that's what it's going to be. So, see to it that you're not misled. There's another verse that goes along with that. It says that if anyone says to you, behold, here is the Christ, or there he is, do not believe him. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and will show great signs and wonders. I ain't got no signs. I ain't got no wonders to show you. All I got are my experiences, my life events, and my past, my messy past, and my bright future, and my in the working, in the process of life presently. That's all I have. I'm in process. I'm in the process of becoming. That's what I am. Nothing to hide. Ain't nothing here to see other than what you see. I'm not here to mislead you. There is that verse continues on and say, so as to mislead these false Christ and these false prophets. They're here to mislead. I'm not here to mislead you. I'm not misled, and I'm not here to mislead. It says, as to mislead, if possible. Now it's saying, if you're weak enough, if you ain't careful enough, if you don't guard your heart, you're going to be taken by them. And then it says, if possible, even the elect, meaning even the ones who are the actual chosen ones. And see, people considered me as one of those elect because they knew there was something different about me. And they knew that I stood out from the crowd and from other ministers and other preachers and whatever else. People knew that. And some still know that. But they felt that I had obviously been misled when I began to speak like I speak and talk like I do. So they felt that I had turned away from the truth, that I had walked away from the truth, that I was no longer in accordance with the truth. But they're just wrong. They're just misled themselves, not me, them, even the elect. Misled, if possible, even the elect. There's another verse that says, see to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception. And see, people say, see, he's being philosophical. He's being deceptive. He's using words. He's going the long way around. He's tricking you. Man, phooey on you. See to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception, according to the tradition of men. Well, doesn't that sound like the church world, the tradition of men? I have no tradition of men. If anyone knows me, and if you've heard enough of me, and if you just listen to me, you'll realize I'm not speaking anything traditional. That's why I'm considered a heretic, because I don't speak the tradition of men. I don't speak the traditional way that men speak. I don't even speak the traditional way that heretics speak. I may speak some of the same things or speak on some of the same topics that they spoke on, heretics of old, that I have no idea of. There's one person that I speak not even alongside, but I speak, we have some conjunctions, some those junctions or whatever, on the highway, how roads cross each other. Our roads cross each other in places and spaces, but we both come from a different approach. But I do like him, and for the most part, I agree with him. I see some things, on the religious side of things still to this day with him, but I agree with him, and I have to respect him and all of his accomplishments, even before his downfall of how people labeled him as a heretic and all, and even beyond his downfall. Because it's not necessarily how hard you fall, but how strong you are in getting up, and how you move beyond that hard fall. And he has moved beyond that, not because of some sinful thing that he was doing, but just because of the fact that he stood against the convictions. He stood with the convictions that he had that were against the denominations and the teachings that he was teaching. Carlton Pearson. Okay. So see to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception. I'm not bringing you empty deception. I'm not bringing philosophy to you, even though there may be times that I may be somewhat philosophical, according to the tradition of men, according to the elementary principles of this world, rather than according to Christ. Well, you're not going to be taken by me with that, because I don't even go those routes. But anyway, it says, we are no longer, there's another one that says, we are no longer children, tossed here and there by waves and carried away by winds, every wind of doctrine, by the trickery of men, by craftiness and deceitful scheming. Man, I ain't got no schemes. I don't got no pyramids. I don't got nothing to sell you. I don't got no $1,000 line, no $100 line. I don't got nothing saying God told me to tell you that 20 people in here got $500. You need to be moving now. Let's move. Do not drag. I'm not here to tell you that, you pay this much for that and you pay this much for that. But then when you come in the house of God, you don't want to give this much or that much. I'm not a preacher that's going to get up and pull out $1,000 and say, I'm going to put the first 1,000 in. Who's going to follow me? The Lord is telling me it's about 20 of you right now that can get up right now with that $1,000. And then if you don't have the 1,000, the Lord told me if you had 1,000, you would give it. But since you got 600, you would give that too. Also, those of you who know you got it and you have a problem, we have a system now that you just scan. We can scan, rub your debit card. We can run your debit card. We can run your credit card. We can do whatever. And some of you may even have time to step out and go to a local teller machine and do what you got to do. But just come on back. We'll hold the line just for you. I don't got none of that. Got this holy oil. Got this dirty oil for you. Got this oil that I have put my toe jams in, and it is sure to bring healing to the body of Christ. You just come on, bring healing. Even if it breaks you out with some caps, some scales and stuff on your skin from my feet and my toes being all up in there, but it'll work for you if you just work it. Just believe the prophet. I don't got nothing to sell you. I need all my sheets, so I don't got no sheets that I bought or that I took off my bed, that I took out of my linen closet and wasn't going to use them no way, so I cut them all up and then I soaked them in the oil that my feet were in, and now I'm going to sell you the oil. I don't got no little trickery scheme where I tell you just write me and call me and send me your address and your phone number and everything. Send me the name so I can pray for you. I pray for you. Yeah. You don't say, well, I want a particular offering. I want something. I want an offering put in that envelope, but if you got it, I'll take it. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying send me your name and stuff and let me pray for you. No, you want the name and the address and the telephone number so that you can put them on your list of beggings. You want to beg them. I'm not here to beg you for some money. I'm not here to convince you that, a move of God is happening where we are and we need to build this building. We need to build a bigger building. Can you give to to us. I'm not here to solicit you through mail or text or Twitter or Facebook or anything else. That's not me. So I'm not the one with the deceitfulness or the trickery. That's not me. That's those people. That's not me. But the Spirit explicitly says, here's another one, that in the latter times, some will fall away from the faith. And that's where people think I am. They feel that I have fallen away from the faith, that I've left my first love, that I need to come back and do my first works over. The time will come when some will fall away from the faith, paying attention to deceitful spirits. There's me. I'm that deceitful spirit. And doctrines of demons. There I am. Doctrines of demons. Through the insincerity of lies, whose consciences are seared. My conscience is not seared. I have a strong conscience. I have a very awakened conscience. There's nothing seared about my conscience. I don't have lies to give you. I am as sincere as they come. I don't have any doctrines of devils or demons. I don't have anything by way of deceitful spirits. I don't listen to others in any form or fashion like that to even have something like that to offer you. I don't have that. Now, there's another verse that says, by this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God, and every spirit that does not confess that Jesus is not from God. And this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard from the beginning. Whatever. Then you got another one says, you therefore, beloved, knowing this beforehand, be on your guard so that you are not carried away by the error of unprincipled men and fall from your own steadfastness. In other words, don't let the trickery of men, trickery of men who don't have character, who don't live by principle, who have no convictions, no integrity, don't be taken away by their errors and then fall from your own steadfastness. I'm not here to remove you from your landmark that is sure and that you're steadfast in. I promote that. I tell you to stand in that. But if that which you are standing in is not sure and is not strong foundation and has not been shaken, has not been proven, maybe you need to move from that. Without any help from me. Maybe you do need to move from that. But I'm not here to mess with you like that. In fact, I realize that because I want to hit a few more things, I'm going to have to give one more teaching on this here in order to get it all out, because I'll probably never come back and touch this again after this here, not as a whole teaching. So until the next one, let's keep moving. Have a nice one.